Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you why we should probably read more often. Um, I don't think this will happen. Let's get this out the way. I don't think that this is a thing that will be explored whatsoever, and I'm not even sure it's a problem, okay? It's just the fact that I didn't expect this to be possible. That's all this video is. And if I am missing something, and it actually isn't possible, there we go too, right? Like, this is why you do it. Get more knowledge into the take, right? So, I covered AdMech Disintegrator again, having access to some of the cheapest indirect fire, and just to take that out, I had talked about the Night Spinner briefly. And in that, I kind of went to myself, good thing nobody brings the Night Spinner anymore. Like, I don't think it's nearly as bad, but just imagine if you had to do, like, Night Spinner shenanigans with, some of the things that Eldar are already doing, all their movement shenanigans, battle focus and whatnot, and then having to match that while being Night Spinnered, right? For those of you that don't know, has indirect fire, blast, twin linked on the Doom Weaver, monofilament web in your shooting phase after this model has shot. If one or more of those attacks made with its Doom Weaver scored a hit against an enemy unit until the start of your next turn, that enemy unit is pinned. While the unit is pinned, subtract 2 from that unit's move characteristic and subtract 2 from charge rolls made for it. 190 points. Alright? This is one of the things that made indirect nerfs happen as along with it being nerfed, right? It was a terror earlier in 10th, okay? And, while I was thinking about it, I was also thinking about some things that started some ruckus in early 10th, and some things that I also covered recently is that Titanic is looking okay. We've had Stompers win, we've had Big Knights come out and win. It looks to be doing okay enough, and the reason that Titanic had its rules changed, the Wraith Knight. And now the Wraith Knight has two variants, Wraith Knight and Wraith Knight with Ghostglaive. Now for the base Wraith Knight, it's costs more than the one with Ghostglaive. Uh, and a lot of people at first were like, you're putting way too much stock into the fact that it has guns. Like, the better profile, stuff is over here with the Ghostglaive. And I'm not sure if this had to be added on, and I'm forgetting that part. Um, but as somebody that likes Crusher Stampede Tyranids, let me tell you, a monster that can go through walls is a powerful thing. And I didn't realize that the base Wraith Knight had that the same way because of the way people talked about the Ghostglaive. This is what I mean by we should read, okay? So the Wraith Knight with Ghostglaive has Titanic Agility. Each time this model makes a normal, advance, or fallback move, it can move through models and terrain features. When doing so, it can move within engagement range of enemy models, but it cannot end that move within engagement range of them. Um, Fine and dandy, that says, hey, you're 420 Titanic monster towering Aeldari Walker. And actually, it's funny thinking back to something I was wondering about AdMech, why there would ever be just anti-Walker. That's like all vehicles, right? Nope, here's a Walker. That's a monster. Um, Wraith Knight with Ghostglaive, T12, Movement 12, 2 up save, 18 wounds. That has battle focus, and I'm like, okay, why did we even give them battle focus? You can't use like anything on it. The only thing you can really use, I mean, you can technically, you can consolidate 6 inches, but also you can add +2 to move. So 14 inches of movement, 420 points for this to just go through walls and then probably beat somebody on the head. It doesn't sound terrible, right? Um, it has a 4 up invuln if you take the scatter shield. I suggest you take the scatter shield, right? So where am I going with all of this? Titanic, whatever, right? But it turns out the Wraith Knight still has Titanic strides, but a little bit different. Uh, it has the 4 inches or less in height, but if it's 4 inches or more, it can also move through sections of terrain features that are more than 4 inches in height. But if you do After it moves, roll 1d6 on a 1, this model is battle shocked. Same clause over here in Tyranids, right? Crusher Stampede Tyranids. And that turns out to not be too much of an issue because you're getting a profile that shouldn't go through walls. That's really what it is. Okay? And if you're telling me that there's any way to put a Wraith Knight and Night Spinner in a list, again, I I think there's a chance that it might happen. Right? There's a chance. Some other things that used to terrorize us, Wraith Blades, but they're kind of whatever. Wraith Guard, I think, also kind of whatever. That Wraith Guard weren't also like that much of a terror, really. They got knocked down on toughness, so it's not as bad. But 6-2-3, 4 up invuln. That's I think Votan might have something to say about getting an invuln with this profile. For 170 points. No ranged on the Wraith Blaze, but it is what it is, and not good melee on the Wraith Guard. So hey. Uh, then you have Fire Prisms, which also we don't see anymore, and I'm kind of glad to not see anymore. 160 points per model. You all know the linked fire thing with the Prism Cannon. Happy days, right? So I would imagine that if I was going to do these things, it would probably have to be in Spirit Conclave, right? It would probably have to be something that bolster the Wraith constructs, and maybe just a little bit of fire support with Night Spinners or Fire Prisms, maybe something like that. If it was going to be propping up the Wraith Knight, back to the good old days for Wraith Knights, that is, right? Figured that would be the situation. Or maybe generic Warhost. Uh, okay, fine, I guess. But then you come down, it's like, I guess I could give it sustained hits 1 within a foot. It can go through walls, so it could get there. Crits on 5s if it had sustained, but if you want to do it with the scatter laser, I guess. Yeah, that's about it, right? That's the only real play there from what I could see. Because the other things not Wraith Construct. I mean, I guess you could fall back shooting charge. There's that too. So was looking pretty tame. And I just had to double check. And I think like something tells me I have to be missing a rule here. I have to be missing something. But that's why I'm making this, because if I am missing something, please tell me. I don't know what wording I'm missing. But if this is possible, and again, I don't think that this will be a thing that people do. But from what I'm understanding, I was reading over the most powerful detachment from Eldar right now, right? Devoted of Ynnari. And I'm reading this shit like, okay, at the end of your opponent's shooting phase, if one or more Ynnari units from your army were destroyed this phase, select one Ynnari unit from your army, excluding Titanic units. That unit can make a normal move. That was silly, GW. There's no Titanic Ynnari. Why would you can't do that? Lethal Surge, cool, whatever, once per turn. When a Ynnari unit from your army performs the Fade Back Agile Maneuver, it can make a Lethal Surge. Can't do it on Titanic, no problem. Alright? Instead of a normal move, da 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 da. Lethal Reprisal. At the start of your fight phase, select one Ynnari unit from your army, excluding Titanic. Why did they say that again? That is below its starting strength. Until the end of the phase, that unit has fights first. Servants of the Whispering God. Now, I was familiar with this, but I didn't think that hard on it, if I'm being honest. Servants of the Whispering God. You can include Ynnari units from your army even though they don't have the Asuryani faction keyword. Asuryani units that aren't epic heroes gain the Ynnari keyword. I knew that. I'm still aware of that, but I didn't think too hard about it. So, when you're used to everybody doing the things, right? It's like, yeah, I understand that you made your warp spiders, Ynnari, cool, whatever. Um, but you see how it says like Wraith Knights or Asuryani, Fire Prism, Night Spinner or Asuryani. They gain the Ynnari keyword, and for the low cost of needing your Vrain or the Incarn as your warlord, right? Um, And why would this be a problem? You can't benefit anything from the detachment rule whatsoever, right? I don't think it would be a problem. Again, I'm not saying that it would be. It's just kind of weird to me that you can do that. For 2 CP, 1 Ynnari unit, you get guaranteed fight on death. If somebody tries to poke your Wraith Knight's ankles away, you can still fight on death with 15 attacks, 822 for 2 CP. You could do that. I mean, I guess you could strike if you need to strike. Like if they sent Angron, they're not sending Angron anymore. I'm sorry, World Eaters. If they sent, they're not sending Fulgrim either. Um, yeah, let's just say that they did. Okay, if they sent Scarbrand, right? They sent a Bloodthirster to kill your Wraith Knight. There's a good chance that you still kill it, like on the crackback for 2 CP. That's thing number one. Thing number two, Soul Sight. Your shooting phase. One Ynnari unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have lethal hits and ignores cover. So, again, don't think that it's going to be a thing that happens, that we see not saying that. But if I understand correctly, you're telling me that a Night Spinner could get lethal blast, indirect fire, twin linked, ignores cover for 1 command point in the detachment that everybody complains has too much movement because you're playing Eldar with battle focus and now Ynnari are moving because they got shot, and now my Night Spinner with 48-inch range can lethal, ignore cover, blast, indirect fire, something, and then pin it down with monofilament web if it didn't outright kill it. That's that seems like I'm missing something. I have to be. Wraith Knight, lethal, ignore cover on 2-star cannons and a sun cannon. You know, D6 plus 4, hitting on 3s, strength 10, AP 3, damage 3. That sounds alright. I'm not saying that people are going to do it again. 435 points is steep. I don't think people care that much about the Wraith Knight anymore. I think it was just funny when it was busted, right? But you know, same thing going over here to the Wraith Knight with Ghostglaive. You could give it 2-star cannons and a scatter shield, and then bonk people on the head by going through walls. Yeah, I again, is this actually possible? Or if somebody finally punches your ankles away, yeah, you won't trigger things for yourself, right? But you could sticky it while they're trying to have a shootout with your Wraith Knight, right? You could star engines, some fire prisms into a location, and then do again all the things with linked fire and whatnot, right? Like I've got to be missing something here. And again, not to say that it's that insane, but we've seen the Ynnari list so far. They're not. They're all infantry heavy. Like they're a bunch of infantry units because Eldar that aren't taking their Phoenix Lords are surprisingly cheap. Um, I didn't really ever consider how many more units you could get by not attaching the Phoenix Lords. So you take that, and I guess you can open the door to Wraith Blades and Wraith Guard doing anything, but that's where we land on it. So I don't know. Didn't expect Devoted of Ynnari to be kind of a better index detachment than Warhost with the low cost of not playing epic heroes outside of the Incarn and Yvrain, but we take what we can get and call it a day. So, yeah. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.